Who is not happy this morning? Who is not happy? Who? So you are all happy. Why? What makes you happy? Do you know why I'm happy this morning? I didn't know we were going to come this far, and here we are. This morning happens to be the official last Sunday worship, right? God willing, Sunday we are going to worship. So come. I'll be here waiting for you. We have to be happy because God has been so good to us. It is none of us. It is not our might. It is not our strength that has brought us this far. It is by the grace of God. And so we have to sit down, reflect on some of these blessings. Sometimes we don't count it as a blessing. I heard last time a student of this school, a master's student, of course, just riding, she was knocked down by a car. Have you heard it? Yes. And if the part of the story that I heard is that she was knocked down and that driver ran away instead of assisting her. And then another one, because she was so weak another one came to run over her. That is how come she died. That is what I heard, if that is the case. We have been here, especially the final years, we have national service persons who are counting years, 5 years and beyond. And KNUST Church of Christ, nothing has happened. Even if something has happened, it is not something which is beyond our understanding. Is that not it? It is not something which we cannot overcome. And so God has been so good to us. We are here this morning. Let us worship God. And by so doing, we are going to learn from his word. When it comes to the issue of worship, I always say that it is the aspect of our life as men which God never allowed, which God did not give room for us to choose what to do. If it comes to worship, God has always given the do's and don'ts. God has always given us the way, and he expects us as his people to go according to what he has ordained. And so, we were looking at defining psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs last week. And if you remember, I said that if you look at all the acts of worship, one of the acts which we express the most feelings, love, joy, even the worst part of the feeling can be expressed in what? Singing. And so, if man is giving his way out, it is so often that man has always, because it is the one which is able to express our feelings to the utmost, man always have wanted to do things to express them. And so if we are not careful, we will always go to the extent of doing more than what God has given. And so when we come to the act of singing, this is where we will find people justifying that we have to add instruments of what? Instruments into our worship, because in so doing, we are able to express more of our joy, more of our feelings. And how do they justify this? They justify it by saying that God didn't say don't. And so because we do not read black and white, because it is not expressly stated that don't add instruments, we have that allowance to go ahead and use the instruments. Some also justify it by the Old Testament argument by saying that in the Old Testament, it was there. People used instruments. And so the justification goes on and on and on. And what makes it worse, if we go on to study to prove to people that it is not what is in the Old Testament, it is not what God didn't say, but it lies within what God has stated, then men will come to the argument of using Greek, the original language, to say that, let us go back to the Greek. When we go to the Greek word, which is translated sing, is expressing more than just singing. The word psallo, which is translated sing in the common passage we use, is going beyond what? Just singing. So this morning, I'm just going to take the church through this psallo argument. When I talk about the psallo argument, what I'm saying is that men goes to the extent of using the Greek root word, which is psallo, to defend that psallo in its classical definition means that singing which is accompanied with what? Plucking of a string or an instrument. And therefore, when that same word is used in the New Testament, it means we can sing with the accompaniment of instruments. So that is what we are going to look at. Are we going to justify worshiping in singing or worshiping God using singing and instruments based on this? Now, this is what we have to do. Personally, if you have been listening to me, some of these things are unfounded. Going to the Greek and using them. Personally, I don't like that. I don't want to worry my listeners with these Greek jargons. What is the use of it? Is it just 1 minute of 25 minutes, 30 minutes lesson that I'm going to tell you this Greek word means this? Is that what is going to help you understand Greek? No. Me, I studied it 2 years and I didn't understand anything. So the 2 minutes, 3 minutes thing will not help you. I personally don't like it. But when it comes to the point of going to it to help people understand it more, we will have to do that. Okay. When we talk about the word psallo, psallo was born from the word sao, and it means what? To touch. And it means what? To touch. Now, as we go on, we are going to see that it also means to what? To pluck. More or less like, you know the string instruments, harps, the one that we do this. Is it guitar? Okay. That is what we are talking about here. Now, when you go further, in its pre-New Testament classical Greek usage, it meant to pluck or to twang an instrument. To pluck or to twang an instrument. So we are talking about before the New Testament, before the writing of the New Testament, in the Hebrew language, what it meant was what? To pluck or what? To twang. Somebody, is it? I'm still asking myself, do you understand it? Do you understand it? Okay. If you understand it, then I don't have any problem. But if we continue to study, in its post-new, after the New Testament, years after the New Testament, how this same word was used. In its post-New Testament use, in the Byzantine period, we are talking about 300 to 500 years later after Christ. That is 300 to 500 AD. And in modern usage, it had been modified. Its meaning has been what? Modified. And it came to mean to sing or to what? Chant. Last time, somebody was asking the question, when we say chanting, what do we mean? Chanting simply means using words, just words, using the mouth to utter words. That is the point. And so, this is the word in the classical form and also in what? Its modern form. We are going to see something here. Now, let's come to the New Testament. When we come to the New Testament and you are reading the English Bible or the English version, you come across the word sing, 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 and in its various forms. You may read sang in the past form, singing, and all the various forms. Now, when you are just reading sing, sing, sing in the English version, don't think you go to the original language, the Greek, and you come across only one word, which was translated sing. Now, in the New Testament, 3 words are translated sing in the English. And those words are humneo, ado, and PSALLO. There are 3 words. Humneo, ado, and what? PSALLO. In the Greek, wherever they are, when you come across humneo and its various forms, it is translated sing and also in its different various forms. Now, ado is also translated sing, and PSALLO also translated what? Sing. So, how do you come to understand it properly? The confusion is in the English, not in the rich language. The Greek is so rich that each of them has a meaning. And so, anywhere we see humneo or ado, it simply means sing without any confusion. And we are going to come to some of the passages which make use of these words. But the problem is with PSALLO. The problem is with what? PSALLO. Now, the disputed usage is its meaning in the New Testament times during the Koine period, 300 years either side of the cross. Now, when we talk about PSALLO, understand that with humneo or ado, it simply means sing without any argument. But when it comes to PSALLO, because the classical definition of PSALLO is to what? Sing with the accompaniment of instrument or plucking of an instrument, it becomes a problem. But the problem is not in its classical usage of it, but 300 years before the cross and 300 years after the cross. That is where the Koine Greek, which God in his wisdom used to write the New Testament. I mentioned it last week, that God is so wise that when it comes to the New Testament, the language he used to write, that language now is a dead language. Nobody can go to that Koine Greek and what? Make adjustments. It is as a word in that Greek language, because it is not in use now, will mean what it meant 2,000 years ago as it means now. No change. Are you with me? So, the disputed usage is within that time, because that time, the people living at that time, when we talk of PSALLO, some just got it as singing or what? Chanting. Some also, those who will just not be satisfied with just the singing, will go back to the classical meaning and say that it meant blocking of what? An instrument. So which is which? That is where the problem lies. And so, in our studies, in our time, the only way we can get what God is trying to communicate to us is to look at the word, the context in which it is found, and what the recipients, the immediate recipients of the word of God, what they did when God wrote the New Testament, those who received it, the first century Christians, what they were doing. All we need to do is to go back to that time and see what they were doing, and we will apply it today. And also the context in which the word is found is going to help us understand. And now, in this vital area, God has certainly not left himself without what? Witness. So, we are going to go to the word and see how the context is going to help us understand whether to add instrument or not to what? Add instrument. That is basically what we are going to do this morning. But look at this. Scholar translators, when we are talking about scholars, Thayer, Vine, Green, Abbott, and Analytical Greek Lexicon, Mouton, and Milligan, all these have given us a definition of the word as it was used in the New Testament times. Thayer says that in the New Testament, to sing a hymn, to celebrate the praise of God in song. That is what Thayer is saying about what? The word psallo. Vine also says in the New Testament, it means to sing a hymn, sing praise. Green also says in the New Testament to sing praises. Abbott and Smith also says in the New Testament to sing a hymn, sing praises. Analytical Greek Lexicon also says in the New Testament to sing praises. So you see, they are contrasting the usage of the word in the New Testament as against what? How it was used in its classical form, that is in the Old Testament. And Mouton and Milligan also says in the New Testament, as in James 5:13, sing a hymn. So, this is what we see from the scholar's viewpoint. The word psallo is found 5 times in the New Testament. So, let's come to the word under discussion. We are not looking at humneo or ado. We are looking at psallo, which is translated sing. It is found how many times? It is found how many times? If you want to be able to see this, you can go to the interlinear. When we talk about the interlinear, we are talking about Greek Bible, which is translated into what? English, to help studies. It is translated 5 times in the New Testament. Now let's look at it. It is translated sing 3 times. Sing psalms once and make melody once. When you see the word, we are looking at the critics, looking at it from the critics' viewpoint. They are saying that psallo means to sing with the accompaniment of instrument. But this same word, when it is used in the New Testament, how many times? 5 times. It is translated just sing without anything 3 times. Sing psalms once and what? Make melody once. And so, let me take you through this. When you look at these passages, Jesus sang in the upper room, Matthew 26:30. Paul and Silas sang in the prison, Acts 16:25. And the Hebrew writer in the congregation, he also what? sang. That is also Hebrews 2:12. Now, just go and do diligent studies, and you are going to realize that in these passages, he used the word humneo or what? Ado, and it simply meant sing, no argument or whatsoever. You can't argue about these things. But you come to the other passages in the New Testament which use the word psallo, and the only way you can justify is going to its context. Within the context, we are going to find whether it was with the accompaniment of instruments or not. And we are going to see it in some passages here. Now, as I was doing this, I had to go to the interlinear to look at all these things and see if the word is so. Romans 15:9. Quickly open it, read it. Somebody should read because I'm going to be looking at this. Romans 15:9.
And that the Gentiles might glorify God for his mercy, as it is written. For this reason I will confess to you among the Gentiles and sing to your name.
So, when we look at the other usages of the word and psallo in its context, we are going to see whether the context is enough to tell us that it is just singing God is talking about. And Romans 15:9, read it well, read it aloud.
Verse 9. And that the Gentiles might glorify God for his mercy, as it is written. For this reason I will confess you among the Gentiles.
So here, the stress is singing in the sense of glorifying God and confessing his name. In the context of Romans 15:9, the people are going to glorify God and also confess his name. If we are talking about this, are we going to achieve this with instrument? How do we glorify God? How do we confess his name? We are talking about what? He's stressing on what? Using the voice, vocal. In 1 Corinthians 14:15, he describes singing with the spirit and with understanding, which is vocal singing, or which only vocal singing can what? Fulfill. 1 Corinthians 14:15.
Verse 15. What is the result then?
What is the result then?
I will pray with the spirit.
I will pray with the spirit.
And I will also pray with understanding.
And I will also pray with understanding.
I will sing with the spirit.
Now let's look at this. I will sing with the spirit.
And I will also sing with understanding.
And sing with understanding. Which part of this statement implies an instrument? If you are going to sing with the spirit and sing with understanding, understanding comes from what? Words. You cannot understand something when you do not know or get the words. We convey meaning from words. And so, there's nothing like an instrument within this context when the word psallo is used here. Now, Ephesians 5:19. It emphasizes speaking to yourselves as a result of being filled with the Spirit. Read it for us.
Verse 19. Speaking to one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord.
Singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord. So, the emphasis, the point he's trying to make, the take home here is that we are supposed to speak to ourselves. And as we speak to ourselves, we are going to be able to what? Glorify the Lord. And how do we achieve this reciprocal act of speaking to ourselves in using instrument? So we are looking at the context. In all these passages, these are the passages where psallo is used. And remember I said in 3 of them, it is translated just sing. Once it is translated sing psalms, and once it is also translated making melody. And you can get it from these passages. Colossians 3:16 commands teaching and admonishing one another as a result of Christ's word, indwelling richly in all wisdom. So we are supposed to teach and also what? Admonish ourselves. How do we achieve teaching ourselves? By playing instruments? No, it doesn't work that way. So let us look at the context. The context is enough to help us understand that it is carrying the meaning of what? Singing without the accompaniment of any instrument. And lastly, James 5:13. James 5:13, read it and let's see something there.
Is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray.
If
Is anyone cheerful?
hold on. If anyone among you what?
Suffering.
Let him
Pray.
pray.
Is anyone cheerful? Let him sing psalms.
If is anyone cheerful, let him sing
Psalms.
psalms. Now look at this. We are looking at two contexts or two different scenarios. If somebody is sad, if somebody is in that moment, that person is supposed to pray. If somebody is cheerful, that person is supposed to sing psalms. So you see where it is translated, sing psalms. He is parallel, which singing and what? Praying. Singing and praying are what? Put on a parallel scale. Now, what is in praying that we use instrument? Do we pray using instrument? So if God is using these two in the same context to carry a message, then let us learn from the context that it is not just adding of instrument, but rather God wants us to do something. If somebody is cheerful, that person is supposed to sing. If somebody sad, if somebody sorrowful, that person is supposed to what? Pray. If that is the case, then there's nowhere in this context suggesting the use of instruments. I'm going to conclude. I'm concluding like that. Since such strong and exclusive contexts make no mention of mechanical instrument, but instead stress the heart as God's specified instrument. Go back and look at all the 5 passages that we just read. They are all talking about what? What we do with our heart in glorifying God. If that is the case, nowhere in any New Testament passage is there any reason to include the idea of instrumental music. Nowhere. Now, what makes it so striking is this. Let's say, go to Ephesians 5:19. Read. Ephesians 5:19. Read for me.
Ephesians 5 verse 19. Speaking to one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord.
Now, does this sound like a command to the people of God? Hello? Is it a command? I don't like the answer. This passage we just read, Paul wrote a letter to the church at Ephesus. And I'm asking, does this sound like a command to the church? Yes? Are you sure? Very good. If that is the case, then we are going to make this deduction from it. If PSALLO means to sing and play an instrument, then every Christian is commanded to sing and play, because every Christian is commanded to PSALLO. True or false? Hello? This passage we just read, speaking to one another. So I speak to you, you speak to me. That is why in the course of our worship, nobody is supposed to be a passive worshiper. By passive worshiper, I mean you do part of the worship and you don't do part. When we are singing, you are standing there as if you are not bothered. You didn't come here to worship God. You sing, and that is the way you are worshiping God. You are not listening to our singing. You are here to be an active participant of the worship. So you yourself, you sing. And that is why it will be wrong when it is time for singing, that person is chewing gum. Hello? When we are chewing gum, are you able to sing? Are you able to sing? These are some of the indisciplined acts we find among ourselves in worship. When you are standing there unconcerned, everybody is singing and you can't sing, your mouth is zipped. That is also wrong. You must sing. So, this is a command, a reciprocal act. I sing, you sing, and in the course of doing that, you are speaking to me, I'm speaking to you. When you read Colossians 3:16, I am teaching you, I am admonishing you, you also what? Doing the same. That is the purpose. And in the end, together, we praise God. That is what we learn from the passage. If that is the case, then it means every individual is supposed to sing and play the instrument. If PSALLO means playing instrument alongside with what? Singing. Then you carry your instrument and be playing it. We don't assemble the instruments here for just one person to be playing it. It goes against what the passage is telling us. Are you people with me? Do you agree? Let's say the meaning is that sing with the accompaniment of instrument. I'm saying that since it is a command to the Christians, everyone is supposed to be singing and playing instrument. Is that what those who are advocates of playing instrument, is that what they want us to do? No. So that is it. The last of it is that the instrument must be one capable of being plucked. Now, from the classical definition of the word PSALLO, it is being what? Plucked, or to twang an instrument. Instruments, we have different types of instruments. You can't pluck, when we talk about plucking, we are talking about a string instrument. And the common example is what? The guitar. If the word is being used in the context this way, then we cannot use any instrument but except what? The one that we can pluck. And so, the argument here is, the instrument must be one capable of being plucked. Example, the harp, which would eliminate organ, pianos, trumpets, and so forth. All the other instruments, if it cannot be plucked, it doesn't fit under the definition. This is it. And therefore, when we talk about Ephesians 5:19, Colossians 3:16, and all the other passages, the controversy is mainly on Ephesians 5:19, Colossians 3:16, where people say that making melody is implying singing with the accompaniment of instrument. And the only way people can or go to extend to justify this is falling on the Greek word, which is PSALLO. And we go to the classic definition of the word to say that to PSALLO means to sing or to pluck an instrument. Therefore, if we come across this same word in the New Testament, it means to sing with what? The accompaniment of instrument. That is not the Bible teaching. That is not the Bible teaching. So now we understand what we mean by psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, in addition to this Greek usage of the word psallo in the New Testament. In the New Testament, those who received the word of God did not understand it as playing instruments with singing. What they got from the Lord and what they practiced, which history confirms to us, is that they sang with their voices whenever they came to worship God. I will end here. If there are any questions pertaining to this, we may ask so that the clarifications will come. Thank you for your time.